All right, I'll drive. The two of them drove to the vintage market together. The vintage market is always packed on weekends. Irvin was a well-known figure there and had his own regular stall, so Charlie spotted him right away. At that moment, Irvin was holding a fake emerald pendant, bragging to a couple of tourists. He was in the middle of a grand story. I'm telling you, this pendant is a treasure, once worn by the great Corbin Adler during the ancient era. Later, when he passed away near Eastcliff, this very pendant fell into the hands of Cole Garrett. After Cole Garrett was defeated, his grandson took the pendant and fled. After a long and complicated journey, it finally ended up with me. That impressive? The middle-aged man asked in surprise. How much for the pendant? Irvin grinned. I can tell you have a connection to this piece. So for you, I'll let it go for $180,000. Once you leave the vintage market, you could take it to an auction house and sell it for $1.8 million. The woman rolled her eyes. If you could sell it for 10 times the price just by walking out of here, why don't you do it yourself? Do you think we're idiots? Seriously, honey, let's go. After she spoke, the woman pulled her husband away. Irvin muttered a curse under his breath. Damn, when did tourists get so sharp? Seeing this, Charlie walked over with a smile. Hey, Irvin, still pulling the same old scams? When Irvin saw Charlie, his face lit up. He rushed over, bowing slightly. Mr. Wade, what brings you here today? Then he glanced at Claire, who was standing beside Charlie, and exclaimed, Oh, and this must be Mr. Wade's wife, right? She's absolutely stunning. Charlie said, Cut the flattery. I'm here to see you about something. I heard you want to buy my father-in-law's penholder for $300,000. Yes! Irvin nodded eagerly and said with excitement, Your father-in-law is a genius. He found such a hidden gem. That penholder is worth at least $300,000 or $400,000. It's incredible. Charlie pulled Irvin aside and said in a low voice, Don't mess with me. Anyone at the vintage market can see that the penholder is a fake. The only one who can't is my father-in-law. Why would you offer $300,000 for something you know is worthless? Tell me the real reason. Irvin said hurriedly, Mr. Wade, you've got a sharp eye. To be honest, I was just trying to show you some respect. Last time, your father-in-law brought me those 2 magical medicines to resell, and I made $1 million or 2 off them. The more I thought about it, the more it didn't sit right with me. I mean, I made a ton of money off the medicine you created, Mr. Wade. It just didn't feel right, you know? As he spoke, Irvin smiled sheepishly. So I was trying to find a way to share some of the profits with you, Mr. Wade. I know you don't care about money, so I figured I'd do it through your father-in-law. Charlie sneered. Yeah, right, Irvin. You scammed my father-in-law out of the magical medicine I gave him. You made millions, and you think you can make it right by throwing $300,000 at him for a worthless penholder? Irvin shivered with fear. Mr. Wade, please forgive me. If you're not happy, I'll give you the money back, all of it. I just want to stay on your good side. Irvin knew he couldn't afford to get on Charlie's bad side. He was well aware that Charlie was a very powerful man now. A lot of important people looked up to him as a master. He'd even heard that Charlie had taken down some of the top spiritual gurus from San Francisco, so all he wanted was to please him. Charlie glanced at Irvin and said flatly, Forget it. My father-in-law doesn't know the true value of the pill, and he thinks he pulled a fast one on you. He deserves to be fooled. After a pause, he looked at Irvin and said, We'll let this go, but I might have a use for you when I'm dealing with antiques in the future. When that time comes, you'd better be on your toes. Understand? Irvin immediately lit up with excitement. Mr. Wade, don't you worry. From now on, I'm your guy. Just tell me what to do, and I'll do it. Seeing Irvin's reaction, Charlie nodded, satisfied. Irvin was a sharp guy, quick-witted and resourceful. He could definitely be useful in the future. So he said to Irvin, If you do right by me in the future, I'll make sure you're taken care of. Irvin eagerly put his hands together. Mr. Wade, don't you worry. From now on, Whatever you say, goes." Seeing his over-the-top flattery, Charlie shook his head and smiled. "Your shamelessness is something else." Irvin grinned. "Mr. Wade, my methods might not be pretty, but the money sure is." As he spoke, he pulled a black box out from under his stall, handed it to Charlie, and said, "Mr. Wade, this is $300,000 in cash. Take a look." Charlie waved his hand and said, "No need. I'm leaving." Irvin asked, "Aren't you going to look around the vintage market?" "No," Charlie said. "Out of 10,000 things here, 9,999 are fakes. What's the point?" Irvin nodded. "All right then. Take it easy. I'm about to close up shop myself." Charlie asked curiously, "Why are you closing up already?" Irvin explained, "I need to go pick up some new inventory at the flea market. Nobody's buying fake diamonds anymore. Everyone's into fake silver dollars these days. You can get a fake Morgan silver dollar at the flea market for a dime, wholesale, and I can turn around and sell it for $1,000 or $2,000. When Claire heard this, she was shocked. A dime for $1,000 or $2,000? Isn't that just cruel? Irvin scratched his head. You don't understand. That's just how business is done at the vintage market. If I started selling things for what they're actually worth, the other dealers would kill me. Charlie said with a sigh, Can't you just try to run an honest business? Irvin said with a pained expression, Mr. Wade, if I don't run scams at the vintage market, I'd literally starve to death. Charlie said helplessly, Forget it. You can manage it yourself. After that, since the flea market was on his way home anyway, he said to Irvin, Come on, I'll give you a ride. Irvin couldn't believe Mr. Charlie Wade would actually offer to drive him. He immediately said with excitement, Mr. Wade, you're really doing me a huge favor. Thank you, thank you. Charlie waved his hand. All right, enough of that. Get in the car. As the car pulled away from the vintage market, the sky suddenly grew dark. A thunderstorm rolled in, followed by a heavy downpour. It had been a rainy summer, with storms popping up constantly these past few days, and some parts of the city were already starting to flood. The rain was coming down hard, and the traffic report on the radio warned drivers that the underpasses on several main roads had serious flooding and were closed. Because of that, Charlie had no choice but to take a detour around the outskirts of the city. During the drive, Irvin was a mix of excitement and nervousness. Sitting in the back row, he discreetly snapped a picture of Charlie's profile while he was driving and posted it on social media with a caption to show off, Your boy is lucky enough to get a ride in Mr. Wade's car. A lot of people commented immediately. The messages were all pretty much the same. Dude, no way! You actually know Mr. Wade? Don't forget about us when you make it big. Irvin's ego swelled with pride. Charlie wasn't driving fast. As he passed a quiet side street, his eyes were suddenly drawn to a car parked on the shoulder. It was an old black luxury car, parked crookedly on the side of the road, and a woman had just hurried out of it. He could see that both of the car's front tires were flat. It looked like she had a real problem. Charlie didn't plan on getting involved and was just going to drive on by. But just then, Claire happened to see the car out the window and the woman who had gotten out of it. She did a double-take and then shouted, Charlie, isn't that Elsa? Stop the car, now! Charlie immediately stopped the car. Claire grabbed an umbrella and pushed the door open to get out. Seeing this, Charlie quickly followed her. Elsa, what happened? Claire called out as she ran over. Claire? What are you doing here? Elsa was shivering in the rain. She looked up and was surprised to see Claire. She seemed both surprised and extremely embarrassed, as if she didn't want her friend to see her in such a mess. Claire held the umbrella over Elsa and said, I was just passing by with Charlie and saw you. What's wrong? Elsa said, annoyed. Don't even ask. The company had me out making sales calls and gave me this car. I was on my way to see a client, and before I even got there, a tire went flat, and I just checked, and it looks like the other one is flat too. I'm so mad. Charlie was a little puzzled. It's normal to get a flat tire, but usually you run over a nail or some other sharp object, and only one tire gets punctured. Having both tires go flat at the same time felt a bit off. So he said to Elsa, "The rain's getting heavier, and it's not safe for you to stay here alone. It's better if you come back to the city with us for now. You can leave your car here, and when the rain stops, you can call for help to get it towed." Elsa nodded and sighed. "I guess that's my only option." Charlie was about to lead her back to the car, but at that moment, his sharp hearing caught the sound of something cutting through the air. He immediately saw a flash of silver streaking through the heavy rain, and it was headed straight for Elsa. Without even thinking, Charlie reached out and pulled Elsa into his arms. At the exact same moment, with a loud sound, a sharp throwing knife embedded itself in the hood of Elsa's car. The blade was as thin as a leaf, sharp and gleaming, and it was still vibrating from the impact. The hood of the car is made of hard metal, but this extremely thin combat knife sliced into it like it was tofu. Everything went silent. Everyone's eyes were glued to the flying knife. Luckily, Charlie had saved her just in time. The flying knife, which had been aimed right at Elsa's chapel, had brushed against her cheek. The sharp blade sliced off a few strands of her hair. It was terrifyingly close. Even though Elsa came from a well-known family and had been through a lot, she couldn't help but scream. A moment later, 2 more flashes of cold steel came flying at them. Charlie frowned, spun around with Elsa in his arms, and instantly dodged the 2 deadly knives. The flying knives were thrown with incredible force. If it weren't for the power he'd gained from the mystic texts, he never would have been able to save Elsa, let alone protect himself. Elsa was in shock. She couldn't believe someone wanted her dead, especially here in Oris Hill. But what she really couldn't get over was that Charlie had saved her life. Twice. At that moment, Charlie held Elsa close, his expression turning cold as he looked out into the curtain of rain. He saw an SUV parked a short distance away. Someone inside was staring at him, completely stunned, as if they couldn't believe he'd managed to save Elsa from their knife attack. "Who's this kid? How dare he ruin our fun?" 2 figures got out of the SUV. The men had a murderous look about them as they started walking toward Charlie. Of the 2 men approaching, the one in front was dressed in white. He was wearing a white silk training outfit that flowed around him, and strangely, not a single drop of rain touched him. The other was dressed in black, with a powerful, muscular build. It was as if an invisible barrier surrounded him, keeping the rain away. Charlie took a quick look and could tell these 2 were not ordinary men. Their skill level was high. Just then, Irvin, who was watching from the car, suddenly looked like he'd seen a ghost. He threw the door open and tried to make a run for it. Charlie was quicker. He grabbed the back of Irvin's collar and said coldly, "Where do you think you're going?" "Oliver Vincent! That's them! Oliver Vincent!" Irvin screamed in a panic, struggling to get free. "Mr. Wade, let me go! I don't want to die!" The muscular man sneered. "Huh, so you recognize us. You've got some sense. But we're not done here, so none of you is going anywhere." Oliver Vincent? Charlie looked at the 2 men, frowning as he tried to remember. A news story had been all over the internet and TV a year or so ago. He'd caught it by chance while he was cooking at home. The story was about a pair of ruthless robbers who kidnapped the son of the richest man in San Francisco and demanded an $80 million ransom. But the rich man had guts. Not only did he refuse to pay, but he also spent $100 million to hire an elder from the American Martial Arts Alliance in Southlake District to rescue his son. The Southern Martial Alliance was known as the most powerful force in the state, with its influence spread all across Southlake. They were a huge deal. When they put out a wanted notice, it was like casting a net that covered every corner of the region. Elder Isaac had profound cultivation, ranking him 5th in the entire National Martial Arts Alliance, and he was very well known. Back then, everyone expected the robbers to be caught and brought to their knees. But as it turned out, Elder Isaac hunted them for 7 days and couldn't even find a trace of the robbers. In the end, to save face, he had to ask the entire National Martial Arts Alliance to get involved, but even they couldn't catch them. The robbers got away clean. After the robbers escaped, they cut off one of the richest man's son's ears as a threat, and the ransom was raised to $300 million. The richest man had no choice but to pay the $300 million ransom to get his son back. This just goes to show how powerful Oliver Vincent really is. They travel around, committing crimes, and if an ordinary person gets targeted by them, there's no escaping their grasp. This time, Oliver Vincent had come to Orris Hill specifically to kill Elsa. Elsa's face changed drastically. "After I came to Orris Hill, I've kept a low profile and haven't gotten into a fight with anyone. Why would you want to kill me?" The muscular man sneered. "We don't have a problem with you, and we don't even know you. Someone just paid us a lot of money to take your life." Elsa demanded, "Who is it? Who wants me dead?" The big man just smiled. "Why do dead people always ask so many questions?" Charlie stepped in front of both Elsa and his wife Claire and said coldly, "What's this? You dare to kill someone right in front of me? Have you asked for my permission?" The man in white replied with a cold voice, "Who do you think you are? My brother and I have killed countless people. A loser like you isn't even worth our time to kill." After a pause, the man in white added, "But since you were dumb enough to get in our way today, all of your lives are now over." Claire and Elsa's faces went pale with fear. These men looked like angels of death. You could tell they'd killed before. They had a chilling, intimidating presence. Charlie said to Claire, "Claire, take Elsa to the car. Don't worry about this. Leave it to me." Claire refused. "No, I'm staying with you." Charlie said coldly, "Go. Don't stay here and distract me. You'll just get us all hurt." Claire finally nodded and pulled Elsa back toward the car. As Elsa stumbled along, a stone slipped from her pocket and fell to the ground. At that moment, Charlie sneered and said, "A couple of ants, and you dare to yell at me? You two must have a death wish." The muscular man smiled with contempt. "We'll see who the ant is. Why don't you try me?" With that, the muscular man threw a punch right at Charlie's head. The force behind it was incredible, like he was trying to smash his skull. Seeing this, Charlie said lightly, "You have no idea what you're getting into." Then he kicked out, landing a perfect blow right between the big man's legs. The big man was fast, but he was nowhere near as fast as Charlie. One moment, Charlie was in front of him, the next, he was gone. A split second later, an agonizing pain shot through his groin. The big, muscular man let out a sudden scream, clutching himself as he collapsed to the ground, doubled over. A dark patch of blood started to seep through his pants. The muscular man was about to pass out from the pain, howling miserably. "Big brother, my balls! He crushed them!" The man in white never expected Charlie to dodge his younger brother's attack. What was even more unbelievable was that Charlie hadn't just dodged it. He had taken down his brother with a single blow. This made his expression change instantly, and he stared at Charlie in shock. He had an energy core himself, so he knew exactly what he was seeing. It was an incredibly powerful hereditary charm. He had to be a warrior who had been training for decades. But the young man in front of him was only in his 20s. He never expected him to be some kind of hidden master. If he fought him, the best he could hope for was a draw. At that moment, Charlie planted his foot on the muscular man's face, grinding his head into the muddy water. He said with a twisted smile, "Weren't you so arrogant just now? Now that you can't be a man anymore, tell me, how does it feel?" The gravel on the ground scraped bloody lines across the muscular man's cheeks. He endured the pain and humiliation and screamed wildly, "Big brother, get this kid!" Get him? Charlie's kick had destroyed him. He was ruined. If it weren't for his profound cultivation, any normal person would have been killed instantly. Right now, he couldn't care less about what he had lost. He just wanted Charlie dead. Seeing Charlie grinding his foot on his younger brother's face, insulting him so casually, the man in white's expression turned dark, like a gathering storm. Filled with rage, he no longer cared about Charlie's incredible power. All he could think about was killing him and avenging his brother. So he roared, "Boy, I'm going to feast on your flesh and blood." Charlie replied with a smirk, "Eat my flesh and blood? With all due respect, with the skills of an amateur like you, you'd be lucky to eat my garbage." "You?" The man in white was going crazy. Oliver Vincent had a fearsome reputation on the streets. When had they ever been insulted like this? The man gritted his teeth and shouted hysterically, "That's it! I'm fighting you!" In the next second, everything became a blur. The man in white moved like a phantom, launching a punch straight at Charlie's face. As he punched, a wave of air exploded from him, blasting the rain away. The air around his fist was so hot that the raindrops turned to steam. "He's trying to kill him!" Irvin cried out in horror, diving under the car. Elsa, who had just been pulled into the car by Claire, was so scared she held her breath, terrified that her savior was about to die because of her. Although Claire was also nervous, she had a strange feeling that Charlie could handle it. At that moment, Charlie watched the man in white with a cold expression. He seemed completely unimpressed by the attack. Just as the fist was about to connect, he caught it and twisted it a full 180 degrees. A sickening crack of bones echoed through the air, followed by the man's agonized howl. His entire palm was a mangled mess, completely dislocated and deformed. The bones were shattered, and his wrist hung limp and useless. "Big brother!" the muscular man on the ground screamed. Charlie didn't even glance his way. He just stomped down on his chest again. A loud crack followed. The muscular man's chest caved in. He choked on a mouthful of muddy water, then spit up blood. His body convulsed a few times and then went still. "My brother!" The man in white looked like he was about to fall apart. His eyes were bloodshot with rage, and a fierce light burned in them as a fresh wave of energy erupted from his body. The man in white formed his good hand into a viper strike. He moved so fast that his hand left a blur of afterimages in the air, creating dozens of hand shadows that made it impossible to tell which was real. Charlie stood perfectly still. The man's eyes glinted with murderous intent as he suddenly lunged, aiming a single finger straight for Charlie's eye. That single finger held all of his remaining energy. A final desperate strike meant to kill. He aimed to stab his finger into Charlie's eye, right through the socket and into his brain. The core strength in his fingers was enough to shatter Charlie's head like a watermelon. Charlie stood there, cold and still. And then he laughed. "Pathetic," he casually slapped out. No one knew that his palm was filled with a powerful aura. The slap hit with more force than a car crash. With one swift motion, Charlie slapped the man in white, sending him sprawling to the ground. A dead silence fell over the area. Claire rubbed her eyes hard, almost unable to believe it. Irvin was stunned too. Were these guys really the legendary Oliver Vincent? Their power didn't match the stories at all. The most powerful boss in the city, slapped to the ground by Charlie? How was this possible? The man in white lay collapsed on the ground, unable to get up. his heart pounding with shock. The slap looked simple, but it sent a surge of powerful core energy into his head. It shot through his body's energy channels like a lit fuse, causing several major ones to burst. With his energy channels destroyed, all his skills were gone. The man in white screamed in agony, completely shocked. To have that kind of hidden core strength was unbelievable. He couldn't even begin to understand Charlie's power. Not even the #1 fighter in the National Martial Arts Alliance, the champion of the whole South Light District, had skill this strong. And Charlie's power seemed to be even greater than that. Where did this guy come from? He and his brother hadn't come here to kill anyone. They had come here to die. Just then, Charlie landed another crippling blow, and the man's body went limp. His limbs were useless, leaving him just barely clinging to life. After the hit, Charlie looked down at the man in white. His eyes were cold and piercing as he asked in a chilling voice, "Tell me, who hired you to kill Elsa?" The man's face was ashen. He was completely broken. For a fighter like him, this was a fate worse than death. His spirit was crushed. He said desperately, "Just kill me. Let me die with some dignity." Charlie said coldly, "Dignity? You don't deserve any. If you don't tell me who's behind this, I'll destroy every last one of your energy channels. You won't even be able to blink for the rest of your life. Then, I'll hand you over to the police. You look like a wanted man, and I could probably collect a nice reward. After that, I'll let you rot in a prison cell for the rest of your life." The man in white looked terrified. "My skills were no match for yours. I deserve to die. I'm just asking you to make it quick." Charlie nodded. "Tell me, and I'll make it quick." The man hesitated for a second, then blurted out, "The one who hired us is Elsa's cousin. We were supposed to kill her here in Oris Hill, to stop her from going back home alive." Charlie nodded slightly. "If that's the case, then you can have your wish." With that, Charlie used a specific technique, and the man in white went silent forever. Elsa was shocked when she heard them. Her own cousin wanted to kill her? Did something happen back home? He didn't want her to make it back to Eastcliff alive? How could anyone be so cruel? Just then, Irvin crawled out from under the car. He noticed the stone Elsa had dropped on the ground earlier. He quickly picked it up, but as he went to hand it to her, he stopped, surprised. "Miss, isn't this the stone of peace and wealth? How did you get it?" Elsa was shocked. "You know what this is?" she asked. Irvin scratched his head and grinned. "I sold this stone to Mr. Wade. Later he came to me saying he'd lost it and asked if I had another one. But there's only one like it in the entire world. It's completely unique." Elsa couldn't believe it. It felt like something had burst inside her chest. Irvin's words echoed in her mind. She murmured, "So this stone, it's the only one in the world?" "The one and only," Irvin said with certainty. "There are no two identical leaves in the world, and there can't be two identical stones. I recognize this charm. It's definitely the one." Speaking of which, Irvin sighed. "It's a shame. I've never been able to find another one like it for Mr. Wade since then." Mr. Wade? He'd kept this from her for so long. The man who saved her, the dream lover she had been fantasizing about for so long. It was him. She had fallen in love with her best friend's husband, Charlie. She was so overwhelmed that she burst into tears. She couldn't help but ask God, "Is there anything more ironic than this in the entire world?" At that moment, Elsa felt like she'd been struck by lightning. She looked at Charlie, who had a murderous look in his eyes, and her heart pounded with fear. At the same time, she was immediately thrown into an impossible, conflicted situation. Charlie had no idea that Elsa had recognized him. After dealing with the Oliver Vincent brothers, a sneer lingered on his lips. They had a name that sounded like it came from a martial arts movie, but in the end, they were just a couple of dead dogs. However, Irvin was looking on in terror. The Oliver Vincent brothers had run wild for years, killing countless people, and had never lost a fight. They terrorized all of Oris Hill. But for two guys that strong to be taken down by Charlie in just 2 moves, it was something he couldn't believe. Doesn't that mean Mr. Wade's strength puts him at the top of Oris Hill? Just then, Charlie glanced at the 2 bodies that were growing cold. He turned his head and saw Elsa's dazed expression. He reminded her seriously, "Elsa, since your cousin hired them to kill you, I suggest you be extra careful for the next few days. It would be smart to hire a bodyguard, just to be prepared." Elsa looked at Charlie with a very complicated expression. After a moment, she steadied her breathing, bit her lip, and whispered, "But I don't know how I'd find a suitable bodyguard on such short notice." Right now, Elsa was struggling with a storm of conflicting thoughts. First, her own family, her cousin, wanted her dead, and then the mysterious man she'd fallen for turned out to be her best friend's husband. Both of these things were torture for her, making her feel completely miserable and helpless. Claire had no idea that her best friend was in love with her husband. She stepped forward and hugged Elsa gently, patting her on the shoulder. "Elsa, don't worry too much," she comforted her. "Since Charlie is such a good fighter, even the famous Oliver Vincent were no match for him. You can ask him to protect you. Just be careful, and if you ever feel unsafe when you go out, you can call him any time and he'll protect you." To Claire, it was simple. Since her husband had this ability, it was only natural for him to protect her best friend. But what Claire didn't know was that her best friend was in love with her husband. Elsa, who had been feeling so conflicted, suddenly felt a rush of joy when she heard Claire's suggestion. Her heart started to pound. She wasn't depressed that her dream guy turned out to be Charlie. In fact, her feelings for him hadn't faded at all. On the contrary, because Charlie had rescued her again today, he had become a real-life superhero in her eyes, the man who had saved her life twice. If it weren't for Charlie, she probably wouldn't have survived either of those attacks. That's why her feelings for him were suddenly so much stronger than what she'd felt for the mysterious stranger she'd imagined. Even though she knew falling for her best friend's husband was completely wrong, she also knew that Charlie and Claire weren't really husband and wife. Their marriage was just an arrangement made by Claire's grandfather, and they had no real emotional connection. She even remembered a conversation with Claire a few days ago. Claire had told her that she and Charlie weren't intimate at all, that they still slept separately. Claire got the bed, and Charlie slept on the floor. So, did this mean she could actually like Charlie and not feel guilty about betraying her best friend? Maybe. If she and Charlie got together, it would actually be a relief for Claire. Thinking about this, she turned to Charlie, a new joy in her voice. "Then I'll take you up on that offer, Charlie. Thank you." Charlie smiled slightly. "It's no trouble at all." His smile made Elsa's heart skip a beat all over again. Logic told her that Charlie was her best friend's husband and was completely off limits. But her heart couldn't help but race with these new possibilities. Charlie, oblivious to what was going through Elsa's mind, simply gave her his phone number. At that moment, Irvin scrambled forward, his face a mask of flattery. "Mr. Wade, you are incredible! Thugs as notorious as the Oliver Vincent brothers couldn't even touch you. I, Irvin Jones, am in complete awe. I'm practically groveling in reverence before you. You're like a god among men." And with that, Irvin dropped to his knees without a second thought. Charlie gave him a cool, unimpressed look and asked pointedly, "Hey, Irvin, why'd you take off running just now? Were you afraid I couldn't handle them?" "No!" Irvin's face went pale as he rushed to explain. "Mr. Wade, you've got it all wrong. How could I ever doubt your strength? I just got confused for a second, that's all. Please, don't hold it against me." After he finished speaking, Irvin practically knocked his head on the ground, his voice trembling as he said, "Mr. Wade, You are a true titan. From now on, I don't worship anyone or anything. I only worship you, Mr. Wade." Claire watched Irvin's pathetic display of sucking up and just shook her head. She turned to Charlie. "What do we do now? You killed both of them, the Oliver Vincent brothers. Should we call the police?" Charlie thought for a moment, then said calmly, "You guys get in the car first. I'll take care of this." Claire nodded and got into the car with Elsa and Irvin. Once they were all safely inside, Charlie pulled his phone from his pocket. He called Isaac Craven, the Wade family's representative in Oris Hill. The call connected almost immediately, and Isaac's respectful voice came through the line. "Mr. Wade?" Charlie said calmly, "I ran into the Oliver Vincent brothers. The two of them were making trouble for me. Now they're dead. Their bodies are on the side of the road. I don't want any loose ends. Send someone over right now and handle it." Hearing this, Isaac was shocked. "Mr. Wade, you took care of the Oliver Vincent brothers? My God, they're a notorious duo in Oris Hill. They're known for being cruel and ruthless, and their strength is legendary, even in Eastcliff." Isaac couldn't help but say excitedly, "Mr. Wade, you're incredible. If the Wade family knew about your strength, it would cause a huge sensation." Charlie replied calmly, "It's enough that you know. Don't report this back to the Wade family, or I'll never forgive you." Isaac respected Charlie's orders and replied respectfully, "Of course, young master. I'll be tight-lipped. I'm sending someone to deal with it right now." Charlie gave a satisfied grunt, then hung up the phone and walked back to the car. Opening the car door, Charlie slid into the driver's seat and started the car calmly, as if the men he had just killed were nothing more than a couple of stray dogs. Elsa sat in the back seat, her beautiful eyes fixed on Charlie's profile. Her eyes shone with a new light, a mix of love and pure admiration. By the time the car reached the city, the terrifying storm had finally passed. Then, as the clouds parted, a vibrant 7-colored rainbow stretched across the sky, causing countless people to stop and stare. Charlie pulled up to the entrance of the flea market and let Irvin out. After Irvin got out, he bowed respectfully to Charlie and said, "Thank you, Mr. Wade." Charlie looked at him and said coolly, "Irvin, you must never tell anyone what happened today. Do you understand?" "Mr. Wade, don't worry. I understand completely." Irvin's face was filled with admiration. He now saw Charlie as a god. Charlie nodded in satisfaction and drove off. Irvin just stood there, watching Charlie drive away, not daring to move for a long time. As for Elsa, Charlie and Claire took her straight to her hotel. Elsa had been staying at the Aurelius Grand in Oris Hill. The security there is excellent, and it's a Wade family property. It would take Elsa's cousin tons of courage to even think about attacking her there. He would never dare. Until the moment she stepped out of the car, Elsa's gaze on Charlie was still incredibly complicated. Her heart felt heavy, like it was weighed down by a stone. There was so much she wanted to say to Charlie. She wanted to thank him. She wanted to confess her feelings, and she wanted to tell him how much she regretted misjudging him so completely. But with Claire right there, she couldn't say any of it. Several times she opened her mouth to speak, but hesitated and stopped herself. When they reached the hotel entrance, Claire hugged her. "Elsa, remember," she said softly, "you have to call Charlie if you get into any trouble. Don't put yourself in danger." Elsa nodded and whispered, "Don't worry, Claire. I will." Charlie watched Claire holding Elsa and couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy. His own wife had barely ever held him, yet she so easily held her best friend. What Charlie didn't notice was the look of envy in Elsa's eyes as she looked at Claire. Considering Elsa was Claire's best friend, Charlie felt a sense of responsibility for her safety. While the two women were saying their goodbyes, he sent a quick text to Isaac. "Send a message to the Gardner family in Eastcliff. If they even think about harming Elsa again, I will level their entire family." The Gardner family's power was less than 1/10 of the Wade family's. They wouldn't dare to make that mistake again. After dropping off Elsa, Charlie and Claire went home. Soaked from the rain, the first thing Claire did was jump in the shower to change. Charlie gave all the money he'd gotten from Irvin to Jacob. Jacob practically snatched the $300,000, his eyes gleaming. "This is just the start," he said excitedly. "Next time, I'll find some hidden gems and make $3 million off him. From now on, our family's future is riding on me." Charlie managed a weak smile, thinking to himself, "Jacob, oh Jacob, you've got to give Irvin a break. That poor guy gets scammed so often I don't know how he even makes a living. And now you've taken $300,000 from him in one go. If you bring him some piece of junk, he'll think you're some kind of expert, and he'll be too scared to make you mad. He'll end up paying a fortune for it just to stay on your good side. You're going to bankrupt the guy. Look, Irvin might be a hustler, but he's not a bad person. You can't just keep bleeding him dry like this." So Charlie tried to reason with him. "Dad, maybe you should ease up on dealing with Irvin. The guy can't be trusted. If you get too involved with him, you're bound to get burned eventually." Jacob scoffed. "What do you know? You go around telling people about energy alignment or whatever, and that's just a scam. We're in the serious antique business. If you don't get it, then stay out of it. Just watch and learn." Seeing Jacob so committed to this dead-end path, Charlie could only shake his head and head back to the bedroom. When he walked in, Claire had already showered and changed into a lavender silk slip. Her shoulders were smooth and pale, her arms delicate, and much of her beautiful back was exposed. Charlie felt his throat go dry as his eyes locked onto her. The nightgown, sheer and delicate, perfectly outlined the graceful curves of her body as she lay on her side. The hem rested high on her thighs, her legs drawn close together, her feet perfect. Claire's face flushed under his intense gaze. "What are you staring at?" she mumbled. "It's not like you haven't seen me before. What's so great to look at?" Charlie smiled. "Honey, you're so beautiful I could look at you forever." Claire rolled her eyes, but a new light flashed in them. Charlie's performance today had genuinely surprised her. She used to think he just knew about energy alignment and a little martial arts, but she never expected him to be so incredible. To save her best friend's life at such a critical moment, that was something else entirely. She couldn't help but ask, "Charlie, tell me, how are you so powerful? Even Oliver Vincent were no match for you." Charlie grinned. "That's a secret. Unless you give me a kiss, I'm not telling." Claire gasped, her face turning bright red. "In your dreams." Seeing her playfully coy reaction made his heart race. He turned and opened the closet to get his bedding. But when he opened the doors, he was stunned. The closet was empty. The bedding he usually used to sleep on the floor was gone. "Honey, where's my stuff?" Charlie turned and asked. Claire composed herself and said, "Oh, I took it to be washed." Charlie was speechless for a moment. Even his place to sleep was gone. "Well, I can't sleep on the hard floor," he said helplessly. "I guess I'll go to the sofa." "You're so clueless," Claire said, pouting playfully. She reached into the closet, pulled out her own spare bedding, and handed it to Charlie. "Here, you can use mine." The white bedding still carried her faint, sweet scent. Charlie was thrilled. "Honey, you're so good to me," he said, his voice a little hoarse. Claire glanced at him. "Just go to sleep." Charlie nodded, holding her bedding and breathing in the soft fragrance. He couldn't help but feel a rush of excitement. If things kept going like this, maybe he'd get to sleep with his wife for real soon. Just then, Claire said to him, "I'm going to be really busy with the studio for the next couple of days. I've just gotten things started, so I need to hustle and find some clients. Can you stay home with my dad? Don't let him go out and buy any of those antiques, got it?" Charlie quickly offered, "Honey, let me come help at your studio. I don't need to be paid. I can clean, sweep the floor, bring you coffee, whatever you need." Claire smiled. "No, it's okay. The studio doesn't even have any work yet. Once things get going, it'll just be me drawing and working on designs. I don't need your help with that. You can just handle things here at home." Early the next morning, Claire rushed off to her studio. Charlie took his e-bike to the vegetable market to pick up some groceries. Claire had been working so hard to get her studio started, and he wanted to cook a healthy meal for her to help keep her energy up. Just as he was leaving the market with his bags, Charlie saw Elsa standing there. "Charlie!" Elsa called out, her face lighting up with excitement. Charlie looked at her, surprised. "Elsa! What a coincidence! What are you doing here?" Elsa looked at Charlie and stammered, "Well, yes, but no, not exactly." Charlie was confused. "Take your time," he said gently. "Did something happen?" Elsa couldn't help but blush. The truth was, she had been waiting outside Claire's house since early that morning and had followed Charlie all the way to the market. She finally mustered her courage, bit her lip, and said, "I came here specifically to thank you for saving me yesterday." Charlie wasn't sure how to react. "I saved you because you're Claire's best friend," he said. "You don't have to be so formal about it." He'd thought something was seriously wrong, but it was just this. Elsa shook her head and summoned her courage again. "Charlie, actually, I also know that you didn't just save me yesterday. You were the one who saved me that other time, at the Oris Hill Hotel." Charlie froze. How could Elsa possibly know about that? He had worn a mask. There was no way she could have recognized him. He quickly denied it. "You must have the wrong person. I've never even been to the Oris Hill Hotel. It must have been someone else who saved you." Elsa looked at Charlie, her eyes a storm of conflicting emotions: frustration, admiration, and a deep unspoken resentment. Why wouldn't he just admit it? Was she so unimportant to him that he wouldn't even acknowledge saving her? He wouldn't even admit it. Thinking about it, her eyes welled up with tears. "That time at the Oris Hill Hotel," she began, "Harold invited me to dinner. Some rich kid started harassing me, and Harold, trying to act tough, picked a fight with them. They ended up surrounding us at the restaurant door. When things got bad, Harold just ditched me and ran." She took a shaky breath. "Then, a masked hero, like someone out of a comic book, appeared and took them all down. He saved me, just like you saved me." As she spoke about that night, Elsa's face turned bright red. That was the day she and Charlie had been so close, the day he'd had to take off her pants. Of course, she knew he only did it to save her and had no other intentions. Hearing this, Charlie felt sick to his stomach. Why did she have to bring that up? He thought frantically. How can I possibly admit to any of this? If Claire ever found out something like that happened between him and her best friend, all hell would break loose. "Elsa, you've really got it wrong," he said, trying to sound convincing. "I can handle myself in a fight, sure, but I'm not the guy who saved you at the hotel." He quickly added, "The only time I helped you was yesterday." Seeing that Charlie still wouldn't admit it, Elsa sighed softly and pulled the Lucky Charm stone from her pocket. "Then what about this stone?" she asked, holding it out. "How do you explain this?" Charlie's eyes widened. That was his stone, the one he'd lost a long time ago. He'd looked everywhere for it. How did it end up in Elsa's hands? It must have been from that night. When he rescued her at the Oris Hill Hotel, she must have picked it up. So that's what happened, he thought. No wonder I couldn't find the stone. I must have dropped it that day, and she found it. He was caught. There was no way to talk his way out of this one. Thinking fast, Charlie decided to play dumb. "What do you mean?" he asked, feigning ignorance. "It's just a broken rock." Elsa stared at him intently. "Don't lie to me, Charlie. Irvin already told me everything. He said this stone is yours. It's a lucky stone, and it's one of a kind." When Charlie heard that, he mentally cursed Irvin. That guy can't keep his mouth shut. Seeing that Elsa had the proof, Charlie could only nod and confess. "Okay, fine. I admit it. I was the one who rescued you at the Oris Hill Hotel. It was just a coincidence that I was there, but please don't tell Claire." After Charlie's admission, a heavy silence fell between them. He felt embarrassed that he'd hidden the truth for so long, and now that Elsa had called him out, he didn't know how to face her. But Elsa's mind was racing, a whirlwind of complicated emotions. She looked at Charlie, opening her mouth to speak several times before hesitating. Finally, she summoned her courage and took a step forward, closing the distance until she was just inches from him. "Charlie, I like you." The corner of Charlie's mouth twitched. He subtly took a step back. "Elsa," he said carefully, "I'm your best friend's husband." Elsa gritted her teeth. "So what? I know your marriage to Claire isn't based on love. You only got married because of Mr. Wilson. It's not like you're stealing a girlfriend's husband. You're just her husband on paper." With that, Elsa grabbed Charlie's hand and pressed it against her chest. "Charlie," she said, her voice full of emotion, "I'm just as good as she is, if not better. I'm the eldest daughter of the Gardner family, and I love you more than she does. I would do anything for you." Startled, Charlie quickly pulled his hand back. "Elsa, stop! There's absolutely no possibility of anything between us. I could never betray Claire. I think this is just a passing crush. You shouldn't waste your time thinking about me. It's not worth it." Rejected, Elsa's expression turned stubborn. "No. I went home yesterday and thought about it all night. Charlie, I've been falling for you ever since you saved me that first time. And after you saved me again, I've fallen completely in love with you." Her voice grew louder, filled with passion. "I just like you. I love you. Please, believe me. If you're willing to be with me, I'll make sure no one ever looks down on you again. I can be the woman who stands by you and supports you no matter what." Charlie could only manage a wry smile. Elsa only saw him as her lifesaver. She had no idea he was also the chairman of the Emgrand Group and the heir to the Wade family fortune. If he wanted to stop people from looking down on him, all he had to do was reveal his true identity. He'd be admired by countless people instantly, but he had no interest in that kind of life. Charlie couldn't tell her that, though. It would crush her. Besides, it would blow his cover. Elsa looked at Charlie, her expression stubborn. "It doesn't matter if you reject me now," she said, "but I'm not giving up. I'll prove to you that I love you more and I'm a better match for you than she is. I'd even be your secret lover if that's what it takes. I'm willing to follow you forever." Charlie sighed, feeling helpless. "Elsa, you're just being impulsive right now. I really think you need to take some time and think this through. Look, I have to go home and make dinner. You should just think about it." With that, Charlie hopped on his scooter and took off like he was escaping. He figured Elsa was just infatuated. He thought if he just lay low for a couple of days, she'd get over it. However, as Elsa watched him disappear down the street, her eyes were still filled with determination. "Don't give up, Elsa," she whispered to herself. "You can do this." Once he was home, Charlie pushed all thoughts of Elsa out of his mind. But as he settled down, it hit him. He still hadn't prepared the medicine he'd promised to Tristan Finch and the Smith family. To them, this medicine was like a miracle drug, the most incredible thing in the world. But to Charlie, it was just one of the more basic remedies described in the mystic texts. If he could ever master the more powerful formulas, he could create medicines that could bring people back from the dead, or even grant immortality. However, those advanced medicines required a lot of rare treasures, things most people have never even heard of. On top of that, many of them needed Reiki to even begin the refining process. He was just getting started and had a long way to go. He would have to take it one step at a time. He was willing to make the medicine for them because he wanted to use the opportunity to get more experience with the skill. The only problem was, he didn't have the ingredients on hand. Since he was making it for the Smith family, it only made sense that they should help him get what he needed. So, he called Warnia. Lately, Warnia had been trying to figure out how to get more chances to see Charlie. Her grandpa had told her that bringing a man like Charlie into the family would be a huge advantage. He believed that a master like Charlie was completely wasted on a nobody family like the Wilsons. The best move, she thought, was to form an alliance with him. Only a powerful family, a family of phoenixes, was worthy of a man like him. A man like a phoenix can't be tied to a nest of snakes and rats. The more she thought about it, the stronger her feelings for Charlie grew, and she was even starting to feel a little hopeful. She wanted to call him, to ask him out, to create more opportunities to be near him. But she was afraid of being too obvious and having him figure her out. Warnia had always been proud. You could say she was the princess of Oris Hill. The daughters of other prominent families couldn't even compare. Because of this, she was out of the league of most men in the city. In her entire life, Warnia had never been truly interested in any man. But Charlie was the first. And, of course, he was a married man. The whole situation felt ironic, and she had no idea what to do about her feelings for him. And just as she was lost in thought about Charlie, her phone rang. It was him. Her heart was pounding with excitement. When she answered the phone, her voice even trembled a little. "Mr. Wade? I'm so surprised to hear from you." Charlie smiled. "Miss Smith, I'm planning to start making the medicine tomorrow, but I need some ingredients. I was hoping you could get them for me and have them sent over." Warnia was thrilled to hear that Charlie was finally going to make the medicine. The Smith family had been waiting for his special medicine, but they hadn't heard a word. Everyone was getting anxious, but no one felt it was their place to rush him. After all, he was doing them a huge favor. How could they possibly pressure him? So, Warnia said quickly, "Mr. Wade, don't worry about a thing. Just send me the list of ingredients, and I'll find the best quality ones and send them right to you." "Perfect," Charlie smiled slightly. "And remember to get a larger quantity. I have other uses for it." Charlie didn't need money to buy the ingredients, but he did need a reliable source. Good quality ingredients were like rare historical artifacts. The connections were what mattered most. He didn't have deep connections in Oris Hill yet, so he was nowhere near as established as the Smith family. They had been in Oris Hill for generations and had powerful connections everywhere. Warnia hung up the phone and immediately received the list of ingredients from Charlie. She called Christian Knox as soon as she could. Although the Knox family wasn't as powerful as the Smith family, Christian Knox's family business was in antiques, vintage collectibles, and herbal supplements. What Charlie didn't know was that Christian was actually the largest supplier of medicinal ingredients in the entire Oris Hill area. This was mainly because his herbal supply business wasn't a private affair. It was a pharmaceutical factory that supplied major companies that made herbal remedies, as well as chain pharmacies. They only sold wholesale, not retail. Warnia read Charlie's list over the phone and then asked, "Mr. Knox, can you get these ingredients for me? I need the best quality and in a large quantity." As soon as Christian Knox heard the list, he knew what was going on. He quickly asked, "Miss Smith, may I ask, are these ingredients for Mr. Wade?" "Yes." Warnia had a good relationship with Christian, so she didn't hide anything. "Stephen probably told you that Mr. Wade saved my grandfather. He offered to do us a favor a few days ago and make some of his special medicine for us. I'm getting the ingredients for him." Christian said immediately, "Miss Smith, don't you worry. I will prepare all these ingredients and I'll deliver them directly to Mr. Wade. Warnia asked, "Mr. Knox, would you please send them to me instead? Is that all right?" Christian Knox said earnestly, "Miss Smith, we're friends, so I'll be straight with you. I was also hoping to ask Mr. Wade for some of his special medicine. For a rainy day, you know. I was hoping to use this opportunity to deliver the ingredients to him personally." Warnia thought about it for a moment. Even if she didn't let Christian deliver the ingredients, he would probably find another way to ask Charlie for the medicine anyway. So she might as well do him a favor and let him take the ingredients to Charlie himself. She smiled and said, "I don't have a problem with that. But Mr. Knox, you must prepare exactly what Mr. Wade wants. Don't make any mistakes." Christian quickly promised, "Miss Smith, don't worry. I wouldn't dare mess up an order for Mr. Wade." Warnia smiled. "All right then. You go and prepare them and send them over to Mr. Wade." After hanging up the phone, Christian Knox was buzzing with excitement. His fiery daughter, Skylar, saw her father rubbing his hands together excitedly and couldn't help but ask, "Dad, what are you so excited about?" Christian laughed loudly. "Ha ha ha! It's fantastic news!" Skylar asked, surprised. "What is it?" "It's Mr. Wade," Christian said excitedly. Skylar's heart skipped a beat. "Mr. Wade? The incredible Master Wade?" She couldn't help but ask shyly, "Dad, what about Mr. Wade?" Christian blurted out, "Mr. Wade is going to make his magic medicine. Miss Smith asked me to help him get the medicinal materials. This is my chance to ask him for some of that magic medicine for myself." Ever since Charlie put her in her place, Skylar had a new appreciation for the old saying, "There's always someone better out there." Knowing Charlie had incredible abilities, she'd always looked up to him and felt a little embarrassed. It was only natural, considering how cocky she'd been when they first met, even trying to challenge Mr. Wade. But girls with fiery personalities like hers often found themselves drawn to men who were much stronger than they, because only a man like that could truly earn her respect. So, Skylar had always seen Charlie as her biggest idol. When she heard Charlie was making his magical medicine, she couldn't help but exclaim, "I can't believe Mr. Wade knows how to make that magical medicine too." Christian sighed. "How powerful is Mr. Wade, really? We've only seen the tip of the iceberg. I heard that a few days ago, even the brilliant Dr. Tristan Finch was in awe of Mr. Wade's medical skills. The medicine that healed his old injuries was something Mr. Wade made casually. The one he's refining now must be even more incredible. Wow!" Skylar was completely stunned. Her family had been in the medicinal ingredients business for years, so she knew a thing or two about holistic medicine. Tristan Finch was one of the top masters of holistic medicine in the entire country. In terms of reputation, he was a living legend. Even the most powerful people had a hard time getting an appointment with him. To think that even he deferred to a young man like Mr. Wade, Skylar couldn't help but be completely fascinated by Charlie. A man with that kind of incredible talent was exactly the type of person women admired most. Especially a strong-willed woman like her, she could only truly admire and submit to a man who was that powerful. Suddenly, her heart started racing like crazy, and she couldn't hide her excitement. Christian suddenly noticed his daughter blushing. He was surprised for a second, then immediately realized his daughter seemed to have a little crush on Charlie. An idea sparked in his mind, and he quickly said to Skylar, "Skylar, I'm going to get the medicinal ingredients ready now. When they're all packed, I want you to take them to Mr. Wade tomorrow morning." "Me?" Skylar asked, surprised. "Dad, don't you want to go yourself? Why are you sending me?" Christian smiled. "You're a girl, and you're both about the same age. You're both young. It'll be easier for you two to talk." After a moment, Christian added, "Honestly, I'm telling you the truth. Despite Mr. Wade's incredible strength and supernatural power, he's actually a very low-key guy. He's been living with the Wilson family as their son-in-law for several years now." Skylar nodded. "Yeah, I think I've heard about that. But I don't get it. If Mr. Wade is so powerful, why would he want to be a live-in son-in-law? Even if he's crazy about that woman from the Wilson family, he could just be with her normally. Why live like that?" Christian sighed. That's what makes Mr. Wade so unpredictable. You'd think it was for love, and that would be one thing. But I've heard people say that his marriage to Claire from the Wilson family is in name only. In the past, Claire's mother used to tell people that Mr. Wade wasn't even allowed in Claire's bed, that he had to sleep on the floor. What? Schuyler was floored. The Wilson family made Mr. Wade sleep on the floor? That's so disrespectful, Christian said. They have no idea who they're dealing with. I think it might be a form of training for Mr. Wade. Some people in the world like to live a Spartan lifestyle, making things as hard for themselves as possible. That must be it, Schuyler nodded. Mr. Wade really is amazing, Christian said seriously. Sweetheart, it won't be long before Mr. Wade really takes off and reaches his full potential. When that happens, every powerful family in Orris Hill, and even across the whole country, will be falling over themselves to get on his good side. They'll be sending their most beautiful daughters to try and win him over. You have to take this chance while you can, starting with delivering this medicine to Mr. Wade. What? Schuyler blushed bright red. Dad, what are you talking about? I don't understand what kind of chance you mean. Don't play dumb with me, Christian said sternly. I can see that you admire Mr. Wade, don't you? Schuyler fidgeted nervously for a moment before finally, shyly, nodding. Christian said, I have a gut feeling that Mr. Wade, a true prodigy like him, won't stay stuck in that nest of vipers with the Wilson family for long. One day, he's definitely going to leave them behind. This is your chance to build a good relationship with Mr. Wade, maybe even a real connection. Speaking of which, Christian's eyes gleamed with excitement. If the Knox family could have a son-in-law like Mr. Wade, it would secure our family's fortune for the next 100 years. We would finally achieve the dreams of our ancestors, and the Knox family would become one of the top families in the country. If that happened, our ancestors could finally rest easy. They would be so proud. Schuyler's heart skipped a beat when she heard this, and her shyness immediately vanished. Her dad was right. This wasn't just some childish crush. This was the key to whether their family could break free from its limits and rise to a whole new level, like a fallen titan. Meeting a fallen titan like him was a once-in-a-century opportunity for any family. So many families rise and fall in less than 100 years, and there are plenty of others that last for 100 years but never manage to get to that next level. The Knox family was one of the latter. If the Knox family could seize this opportunity with Charlie, they could finally soar to new heights. This was truly a once-in-a-century chance. And now, that chance seemed to be in her hands. If she could really bring Charlie into the Knox family, she could save them 100 years of struggle. Oh my God. The weight of her family's future suddenly settled on her, pushing her to get closer to Charlie. So she immediately said to Christian, Dad, go get the medicinal materials ready. I'll take them to Mr. Wade first thing tomorrow morning. Christian nodded with satisfaction. You have to look your best. My daughter might not be the most famous beauty in the country, but here in Orris Hill, she's definitely a knockout. If you dress up, you'll look absolutely gorgeous. Schuyler's face flushed, but she nodded very seriously. Don't worry, Dad. I'll definitely pay attention to that. Christian continued. When you see Mr. Wade tomorrow, remember to tell him that the Knox family respects him deeply, and that we hope to be of service to him and support him in the future. Also, let Mr. Wade know that our family has been in the herbal supply business for nearly 100 years. Whatever kind of quality medicinal materials he needs, all he has to do is tell us, and it will be arranged. After you've said all that, ask Mr. Wade if he would be willing to give the Knox family one of his magical medicines. The Knox family will be eternally grateful for it. I believe that after you tell him all this, Mr. Wade definitely won't refuse. Early the next morning, just as Charlie was about to head out to buy some groceries, his phone rang. It was Skylar, the Spitfire from the Knox family. Skylar was on the other end, sounding cheerful. "Mr. Wade, are you home right now?" she asked. Charlie grunted a yes. "I'm home." "Why, do you need something?" Skylar said, "My dad asked me to bring you some medicinal materials. He said it was on Warnia's order. I was wondering if now is a good time. If it is, I can bring them right over." His wife Claire had already left for work at her studio, and his father-in-law had driven his mother-in-law over to Thompson's villa to check on the renovation progress. Charlie was home alone, so it wasn't a problem at all. So he said, "Yeah, now's a good time. Come on over." Skylar quickly replied, "Okay, Mr. Wade, I'll be there soon." A few minutes later, Charlie heard a knock on the door. When he opened it, he saw Skylar standing in the doorway. She was wearing a beige dress with a black shawl draped over her shoulders, her long hair flowing freely. She held a huge suitcase in her hand and had a shy expression on her face. "Hello, Mr. Wade. I'm Skylar. I'm not sure if you remember me." Skylar was incredibly nervous. Ever since her father told her yesterday how important Mr. Wade was to her family's future, she'd been tossing and turning all night, barely getting any sleep. Thoughts of Charlie had consumed her mind. She was at that age, after all. What girl doesn't dream of finding a handsome, rich, and powerful man who's also a good husband? And as far as she could see, there was no man in the world who could even compare to Charlie. He was the perfect candidate for a husband. Her dad didn't even have to tell her he hoped she'd make a connection with him. Even without that, she couldn't help but be completely captivated by him. Charlie wasn't sure why Skylar was so nervous. The last time he saw her, she was feisty and determined to fight him. Why did she seem like a completely different person today? The fiery little Spitfire had suddenly turned into a shy, quiet girl. So he asked her, "What's with you today? You seem totally different from before." Skylar looked embarrassed. "Mr. Wade, I was so immature before. The last time we met, I was completely out of line with you, Master Wade. Please forgive me." Charlie smiled. "I can see that. The change is pretty big." He then stepped aside and said, "Don't just stand there at the door, come on in." Skylar nodded quickly and carefully walked inside, pulling the heavy box. Charlie could see that she was struggling with the huge suitcase. He knew Skylar was a trained fighter and had some serious strength. A regular strong guy probably wouldn't be a match for her. For her to be having such a hard time meant the box must be incredibly heavy. So he asked curiously, "What's in your box? Why is it so heavy?" Skylar quickly replied, "Mr. Wade, these are all the medicinal materials my father prepared for you, and they are all premium herbal ingredients." After speaking, she laid the suitcase on the living room floor and opened it. These were truly top-of-the-line medicinal materials, the best of the best. Even Charlie himself wouldn't have known where to buy ingredients of this quality. He was a little shocked and couldn't help but ask, "How did your father get his hands on so many amazing medicinal materials?" Skylar quickly explained. "Well, Mr. Wade, you see, my Knox family is involved in a lot of businesses, and one of them is medicinal materials. Our ancestors were herbal suppliers way back in the ancient era. We used to have our own cargo truck convoy to collect the best ingredients and transport them. We sold to the elites in the capital and to wealthy merchants here in Orris Hill. We've kept that business going all these years." Then Skylar added quickly, "Oh, and by the way, my father wanted me to tell you, Mr. Wade, that if you ever need any medicinal materials in the future, just let us know. The Knox family will do everything we can to get you what you need." Charlie was genuinely surprised. Ever since he'd stumbled upon the mystic knowledge, he'd been completely drawn in by its secrets. It contained so many formulas and prescriptions for refining medicine, but many of the ingredients were things he'd never even heard of. He'd been worrying about how to find them, and he never expected that the Knox family was a supplier of medicinal materials with a century of history. This was like searching high and low for something, only to have it fall right into his lap. He couldn't hide his excitement and said, "Okay, that's great. With the Knox family's help, my medicine refining is going to be so much easier." When Skylar heard Charlie mention refining medicine, she hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath, gathered her courage, and suddenly dropped to her knees on the floor with a thud. Charlie was startled by her sudden move. "Skylar, what are you doing?" he asked, surprised. Skylar stayed on her knees, clasping her hands together, and pleaded with a serious expression. "Mr. Wade, my father heard you're going to make a magical medicine, and he's desperate to have one. So I came to beg you, Mr. Wade, if, after you've refined the magic medicine, if you could also—" Skylar trailed off, unable to finish her sentence. She had been admired her whole life. She wasn't used to asking people for things, especially not begging for something. The shy girl was just too embarrassed to say what she really wanted. Seeing her struggle, Charlie felt a little bad for her. But even though Skylar didn't say it, he knew exactly what she was trying to ask. So he said gently, "Does your father want a magic medicine too?" Skylar nodded as soon as he said that. She quickly added, "But if it's too much trouble, Mr. Wade, we would never want to pressure you." Charlie smiled. The magical medicine he was planning to make for Tristan Finch and the others wasn't all that magical to him. It was just a most basic formula from the mystic texts. Making something like this was simple and straightforward. As long as he had the raw materials, he could whip it up in minutes. It was easier than baking a cake from a box mix. What the Knox family wanted was just a bit of medicine. Of course, he wasn't going to say no. The most important part was that, in the future, he would need to rely on the Knox family to get him more medicinal materials. If he could use this opportunity to bring the Knox family into his circle and make them loyal allies, getting ingredients later on would be a breeze. So, he looked at Skylar, who was blushing and looking at him with pleading eyes. He smiled, reached out a hand to help her up, and said with another smile, "Your father wants my medicine? I can give it to him." "Really?" Skylar was suddenly thrilled when she heard this. Charlie smiled and said, "Of course it's true. Even if it wasn't for your dad's sake, how could I refuse when you're the one asking so nicely?" Charlie was just teasing, of course, but unexpectedly when Skylar heard him, her heart started racing. At that moment, Charlie, wanting to secure their loyalty, smiled casually and said, "All right, since I have a good relationship with your Knox family, I'll give you 2 pills this time when I make the magical medicine." Both Christian and Skylar had only dared to ask for a single magic medicine from Charlie. In their eyes, getting even one was an incredible blessing, an honor they felt came straight from their family crypt. With a medicine like that, as long as a person was still holding on to life by a thread, they could be pulled back from the edge of purgatory. For a family like theirs, that was priceless. But they never would have dared to ask for it. And now, Charlie was offering them 2. Skylar froze as if she'd been struck by lightning when she heard this. She stared at Charlie, her beautiful eyes instantly welling up. Then, tears bigger than lentils streamed down her face, and Charlie couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy. Skylar was crying now, and she choked out, "Mr. Wade, are you serious?" Charlie smiled. "Are you afraid I'd lie to you? No, never." Skylar shook her head quickly, sending teardrops flying, and Charlie found her earnest reaction charming. Skylar wiped her tears and managed to smile. "I just can't believe it. Thank you so much. Thank you." After saying that, Skylar bowed deeply. She knew that if her father were here and heard Charlie promise 2 magic pills, he would be bowing right alongside her. Seeing her excitement, Charlie smiles faintly. "Skylar, go back and tell your father that I, Charlie, am a man of my word. After the magical medicine is refined, I will give him 2 pills. But if I ever need anything from the Knox family in the future, he must not refuse me. Understand?" Skylar nodded eagerly, her voice filled with excitement. I understand, Mr. Wade. Thank you. Charlie nodded. Okay, Skylar. You don't need to be on your knees. Get up. Skylar quickly said, Yes, Mr. Wade. After she spoke, she carefully stood up. Charlie smiled and said, We're not in some classic martial arts flick. You don't have to be so formal. Skylar quickly replied, My dad always taught me to be polite and respectful to my elders. Mr. Wade, you have abilities that are almost beyond belief. It's only natural for me to show you the utmost respect. Charlie smiled faintly. From what I've seen of your temper before, you seemed a little spoiled. I didn't expect you to be so well-mannered and respectful. I'm impressed. Skylar was happy, but also a little embarrassed. She wasn't used to being so proper. Before today, she was still that fiery little spitfire. It was her nature to challenge anyone and not back down. But now, in front of Charlie, she was completely won over. And with her dad's high hopes for her, she found herself subconsciously wanting to be like a sweet, well-behaved kitten for him. Seeing that it was getting late, Charlie said to Skylar, Skylar, I'll take the medicinal materials, but I have to go out and buy some vegetables, so we should probably head out. Skylar realized she was keeping Mr. Wade from his errands and nodded quickly. Mr. Wade, I won't keep you. Charlie shook his head slightly. Don't worry about it. Go back and tell your dad that I'll contact him after the medicine is ready. Okay, Mr. Wade. Skylar immediately bowed respectfully. Charlie gently stopped her, then stashed the medicinal materials in the kitchen before walking out with her. At the gate of the community, Skylar thanked him profusely, then reluctantly said goodbye to Charlie and drove home. Charlie, on the other hand, slipped back into his old persona of the useless son-in-law. He pulled a small cart for grocery shopping, the kind you get as a promotion for buying washing powder, and walked to the farmer's market near his home. Skylar drove home, her heart pounding with excitement. Back at the Knox mansion, Christian was pacing anxiously. He had no idea if Charlie would agree to his daughter's request for the medicine. After all, he was desperate to serve Charlie, but he feared Charlie might look down on a family like his. The Knox family in Orris Hill was more influential than Salmon White's family, but they were a far cry from Warnia's Smith family. And Charlie was the Smith family's top priority. With a powerhouse like the Smith family in the picture, what chance did the Knox family have to even get noticed? Just as his anxiety was peaking, Skylar returned. The moment her car pulled into the driveway of the mansion, Christian rushed outside. She had barely put the car in park and opened the door when Christian hurried over. Skylar, how did it go? Did Mr. Wade agree? Skylar nodded over and over, tears welling up in her eyes. Dad, Mr. Wade agreed. That's fantastic! Christian burst out laughing, overjoyed. Then Skylar added, Dad, Mr. Wade said he's going to give us 2. What? Christian was stunned. 2? For us? Mr. Wade is giving us 2 magic pills? Are you absolutely sure? Christian felt like he couldn't even breathe. Skylar nodded, her expression completely serious. He is definitely giving us 2 magical medicines. I heard him perfectly. Oh my God! Christian burst into tears. Is he trying to elevate our Knox family? Skylar quickly explained. He said he'll be needing medicinal materials in the future, and he wants us to work closely with him. Christian said excitedly, This is amazing, Skylar. Amazing! He is going to help our Knox family rise. With a great God like him on our side, the Knox family will be revitalized. There's hope for us. After that, he asked again, By the way, when Mr. Wade saw you, did he show any special reaction? Skylar's face turned beet red. She stammered, He said, Well, what did Mr. Wade say? Skylar lowered her head and said in embarrassment, He said he couldn't refuse a little beauty like me. Christian laughed loudly and cheered. We have a chance. We have a real chance. It looks like one day, Mr. Wade might just become my son-in-law. Skylar said shyly, Dad, what are you talking about? Christian said excitedly, "Anything is possible. Skylar, you have to keep trying." He continued excitedly, "Mr. Wade has great magical powers. His way of doing things is completely different from ordinary people, and he certainly doesn't care about what society thinks or about normal rules. Otherwise, with his kind of power, why would he lower himself to be a live-in son-in-law for the Wilson family? So, my daughter, you have to keep working at it and really solidify things with Mr. Wade. It would be best if you could have a son for Mr. Wade. In that case, our Knox family would truly rise to the top." Skylar was so embarrassed that she wanted to dig a hole and hide in it. She covered her face and said, "Dad, what are you saying? That's so disrespectful." After saying that, she stomped her feet and ran back to her room. The news about Charlie refining a magic medicine spread like wildfire among the elite families in Aris Hill. Salmon White, head of the White family, Terry Castillo, owner of the Collector's Vault, and Orville Hudson, owner of the mansion, all heard the rumor. Although all three were desperate to ask Charlie for some of the medicine, Salmon was the only one who felt bold enough to ask. Salmon felt confident. After all, he had already shown his loyalty to Charlie long ago, even giving him a villa in the Thompson estates worth over $100 million. So, that afternoon, he went to Charlie's house while Charlie was home alone and pleaded with him for one of the magic medicines. Charlie didn't refuse him. After all, Salmon was a pretty easygoing guy. Although his son and nephew were foolish and arrogant, they had learned their lesson. Now, Salmon himself was always respectful and humble toward him. It was just one pill. There was no need to be stingy. When Salmon White got the confirmation he was hoping for, he was so excited he bowed deeply to Charlie 3 times. The wealthier people are, the more they fear death. To them, this miracle drug was like a second chance at life. Everyone wanted to get one for themselves, just in case. After Salmon left, Charlie took out some medicinal materials he had at home and refined a batch of pills. For this batch, he used only 1/10 of his ingredients to make 30 pills. Moreover, because this new pill used the complete formula and the ingredients were far superior to the last batch, the effect was more than 10 times stronger. If the previous pill could treat most moderate internal injuries and had some effect on all of them, then this new pill could heal even fatal internal injuries. Even Tristan Finch's chronic ailments and old injuries from years ago could be cured by taking just half a pill. If you were on the brink of death, even down to your last breath, this medicine could save you. After refining the medicine, Charlie kept 20 of the pills for himself. He then took out 10 of them and called Warnia, Tristan Finch, Christian Knox, and Salmon White. He told them he had finished the magic medicine and was hosting a dinner at Orville's The Mansion that night to distribute it. When they heard the news, they were all ecstatic. They couldn't believe it. Mr. Wade was truly a phoenix. He had made the magic medicine so fast. It was almost as quick as whipping up a batch of dumplings. That night, everyone arrived at the mansion early, waiting for Charlie. Charlie made dinner for Claire, his father-in-law, and his mother-in-law. He told them that an old friend from the orphanage was back in town and that he was meeting them for a small get-together. Then he slipped out of the house. At the entrance to the mansion, Salmon White, Christian Knox, and his daughter, Warnia, the renowned Dr. Tristan Finch and his granddaughter Fiona Finch, Orville, and others were all personally waiting to greet him at the door. Today, the mansion had closed its doors to all other guests, solely to entertain Charlie. When they saw Charlie, a hush fell over the group. They greeted him with immense respect. "Welcome, Mr. Wade." Charlie glanced at the crowd and smiled faintly. "You guys came really early. When did you arrive?" Warnia smiled slightly. "Mr. Wade, it's an honor for you to organize this yourself. We had to arrive a little earlier to show our respect." For the dinner, Warnia had deliberately dressed up, wearing an elegant and classy black evening dress. The sheer material highlighted her perfect, slim figure, not in a flirtatious way, but with a unique and sophisticated charm. Paired with her flawless features, her entire presence was absolutely stunning. Charlie couldn't help but stare for a moment. Warnia looked absolutely incredible tonight. When he compared her to Claire, he realized their looks and figures were nearly identical. But in terms of poise and presence, Claire was leagues below Warnia. After all, Warnia was the daughter of the Smith family, and she carried herself with an elegance that most women couldn't match. Skylar also blushed as she stepped forward and bowed to Charlie. Unlike Warnia's mature, sophisticated beauty, Skylar had a unique charm that combined her athletic grace with a youthful innocence. Skylar wore light makeup, which, combined with her martial arts background, usually gave her an aura as cool and distant as a winter flower on a mountaintop. But ever since she'd developed feelings for Charlie, she was more like a flower blooming in the spring sun, revealing a softer side. As she looked at Charlie now, a blush crept onto her cheeks, giving her a sweet, girlish innocence. Warnia, watching from the side, felt a flicker of something in her eyes. A woman's instinct made her subconsciously size up Skylar as a rival. She wondered if Skylar from the Knox family was interested in Mr. Wade. Her grandfather had instructed her to find a way to bring Mr. Wade into the Smith family as a son-in-law, and she was genuinely tempted by the idea. Could it be that Skylar of the Knox family had the exact same thought? Charlie was oblivious to the thoughts of Warnia and Skylar. He just smiled at everyone and said, "From now on, remember this. When you're with me, you don't need all the formalities. I'm a simple guy, so just treat me normally." When everyone heard this, they quickly protested. Christian said reverently, "Mr. Wade, given your status, we must show you proper respect. We can't break the rules." Solomon added, "Mr. Wade, you are the supreme master of Southlight. You are doing us a kindness. We wouldn't mind waiting for a day, let alone a few minutes. We wouldn't say a word." Tristan couldn't help but clasp his hands together and say, "Mr. Wade's medical skills are unmatched. Anyone in Oris Hill who knows of your incredible abilities would admire you." Seeing their insistence, Charlie nodded helplessly. "All right, let's not stand here at the door. Let's go in." Warnia smiled softly. "Mr. Wade, after you." Charlie didn't object and led the way. The other influential men followed him in a line, staying a respectful half-step behind, careful not to close the distance. They entered the Diamond Box, the most exclusive private room at the mansion. Inside, the table was already set, laden with an array of exquisite dishes. Charlie hadn't invited many people, but every guest was a major figure in Oris Hill City. They were all heavy hitters, and any outsider seeing them together would have been completely shocked. As the owner of the mansion, Orville spoke with a deeply respectful tone. "Mr. Wade, when I heard you were hosting a dinner here, I took the liberty of arranging this menu myself. It's a significant step above our usual Diamond Box standards. The wine is also a century-old Pappy Van Winkle bourbon, which I had flown in from Montana overnight. I hope it all meets your approval." Orville had known about Charlie's abilities for a while, but seeing the caliber of guests who had come tonight still left him speechless. Warnia, the heiress of the Smith family, Christian and his daughter from the Knox family, Solomon, the head of the White family, and the renowned Dr. Tristan Finch. Any single one of them was a powerhouse in Oris Hill, but in front of Charlie, they were as meek as little lambs. It made a man like Orville, who'd come up from the streets, feel even more out of his league. With so many influential people gathered, Orville didn't dare to speak loudly. Even on his own turf, entering the private room, he could only act like a well-behaved dog, fawning over Charlie and hoping for a glance of approval. Seeing how cautious Orville was, Charlie smiled, nodded, and said, "Mr. Orville, you've been very thoughtful." Orville heard Charlie's praise and replied with excitement, It's an honor to be of service to you, Mr. Wade. Please, take your seat. Charlie nodded slightly and sat down in the host's chair, the position of Master Wade. Orville then said respectfully, Mr. Wade, if you need anything at all, just call for me. I'll be right outside the door. With that, he carefully backed out of the room and stood guard by the door of the diamond box. Mr. Orville was known as the king of the Oris Hill underworld, but at this moment, he was just a gangster who was out of his depth. Each of the powerful figures dining with Charlie was far above his station. In his position, he wasn't even qualified to sit at the table. It was the opportunity of a lifetime just to be able to speak with Charlie. As soon as Charlie took the head seat, Warnia followed closely, sitting down in the chair to his right. They were so close, only a few inches apart, that Charlie could smell the delicate scent of her perfume. According to dinner etiquette, the guest of honor takes the main seat, and the next most important people sit on either side. Among those present, the Smith family was the most powerful. As the representative of the Smith family, it was only natural for Warnia to sit next to Charlie. Therefore, the seat on Charlie's other side became the prize everyone was vying for. Christian took this opportunity to nudge his daughter Skylar forward. He smiled at Charlie and said, Mr. Wade, you are a man with incredible magical powers. My daughter Skylar has admired you for a long time and has always considered you an idol. Why not let her sit next to you? She can serve you herbal tea and pour your wine. What do you think? As soon as he said this, Warnia's elegant eyebrows arched, and she shot Christian Knox a very pointed look. But Salmon was cursing silently in his heart. What a shameless old fox, he thought, using his daughter to get closer to Mr. Wade. The main reason Salmon was grinding his teeth was that he didn't have any daughters. He thought to himself, if I had a daughter, I'd show that Christian a thing or two. At that moment, Skylar's face flushed and she was mortified. Even though she really liked Mr. Wade, and her father had told her to seize any opportunity, doing it in front of everyone felt so embarrassing. But despite her embarrassment, Skylar wasn't one to back down. She simply spoke up, her voice clear. Mr. Wade, please give me a chance to serve you. Charlie was a bit surprised by her directness, but he just said calmly, If you're so inclined, then go ahead and sit next to me. Skylar was thrilled. She quickly bowed her head in thanks before taking the seat next to Charlie. Tristan watched with envious eyes. In fact, he had wanted his own granddaughter to sit next to Mr. Wade. However, Skylar had beaten him to the punch, and he couldn't bring himself to compete so openly now. Tristan didn't dare to dream of making his granddaughter Fiona Mr. Wade's partner. But if Fiona could just earn Mr. Wade's favor and be accepted as an aide, that would be a blessing beyond anything he could have hoped for. Something worth more than 8 lifetimes of good fortune. Charlie's medical skills were extraordinary, and he understood Tristan's own heirloom medical arts even better than Tristan did himself. If Fiona were lucky enough to serve Charlie in the future, she would certainly have the opportunity to learn from him. This was one of the reasons he had brought Fiona to the dinner. Of course, his other reason was to seek medicine from Charlie. He had been tormented by his own injuries for half his life, and now he finally had a chance to be cured once and for all. Thinking of this, Tristan gave Fiona a meaningful look, urging her to find an opportunity to get closer to Charlie. How could Fiona not understand her grandfather's intentions? Her cheeks suddenly flushed a deep, alluring red, hot with embarrassment. Fiona quickly lowered her head, but her heart was racing. From time to time she would raise her head to look at Charlie, her fingers twisting together in her lap. Mr. Wade was the most remarkable doctor she had ever seen. His character and his looks were both superior. It was no exaggeration to say he was a rare find, but she also knew in her heart that she couldn't possibly be worthy of his attention. Besides Fiona, Skylar and Warnia were also gazing at Charlie with a special intensity, their beautiful eyes never leaving him. Charlie didn't notice the gazes of the 3 women. He looked around at everyone and smiled. Raising his glass, he said, "Everyone, I feel very fortunate to have met you all here in Oris Hill. I arranged this dinner tonight because I wanted to connect with you all on a more personal level. I'm sure I'll need your help in the future." The moment his hand moved, everyone at the table quickly picked up their own glasses, afraid of being even a second too slow. Warnia quickly said to Charlie, "Mr. Wade, you're being too modest. If you need anything, please don't hesitate to ask. It's what we should do." Tristan added, "Mr. Wade, your reputation is world-class, and your medical skills are extraordinary. I have the utmost respect for you. If you ever have a need for me in the future, I will not hesitate to answer your call." Charlie smiled faintly and said, "All right, enough talk. Let the wine say the rest. To everyone, to Mr. Wade, cheers!" Everyone drank their wine together and then respectfully held their glasses up, not daring to put them down until Charlie did. Charlie set his wine glass down first, and then took a box out from his jacket pocket. Everyone immediately froze. Even their breathing grew quiet. All eyes were locked on the box, their excitement almost unbearable. They knew that inside that box was the magic medicine they had all been dreaming of. Charlie looked around at everyone and said calmly, "This is the medicine I've made this time." "Really?" Everyone was suddenly buzzing with excitement. They had all come for this magical medicine, and now they couldn't wait to finally see it. Charlie opened the box, revealing the 10 pills inside. He said, calmly, "Everyone, the medicine I've made this time is at least 10 times more powerful than the last batch." 10 times? The room was stunned into silence, everyone too excited to speak. They would have been happy with a magic medicine just as good as the last one, but they never expected this new medicine to be 10 times better. Charlie continued, "My medicine, I can't claim it will raise the dead or turn the living into immortals, but it can strengthen the body, extend your life, and cure all diseases. On the brink of death, as long as you have one breath left, taking my medicine can bring you back. Living for a few more years won't be a problem. So, once you take it, you must be extremely careful. Don't just take it without thinking." Everyone was in awe, their minds reeling.
Oh my God.
Could this medicine really be so incredible? The pill Charlie held was just a medicine he'd created using the mystic texts, but it made everyone's heart race. The crowd stared at the crystal-clear pill, their breathing quickening with anticipation. Of everyone there, Tristan, the oldest, was the most excited. The renowned doctor's usual calm composure was almost completely gone. He had a severe old injury that had never healed, causing him to suffer for half his life. The last time, he was lucky enough to get one of Charlie's pills, and while it eased his symptoms significantly, it wasn't a complete cure. Now, hearing that this new medicine was more than 10 times stronger than the last, Tristan was so thrilled he felt he might finally be able to heal his old wound completely. If Mr. Wade's magic medicine could really do that, it would be an incredible gift. Warnia's eyes were also filled with excitement. Even though Charlie had used acupuncture to save her grandfather, his body was still frail. If he was going to live a long and healthy life, he would need to rely on Charlie's magical medicine. So now, her gaze on the magic medicine was intense, but her gaze on Charlie was even more so. As for Christian, he nearly shouted with excitement at the thought of getting 2 of these magical medicines. Charlie said, "Some problems that modern medicine struggles with, like diabetes, kidney failure, and other serious illnesses, can be cured by taking this pill." Everyone was even more stunned by his words. Even though the conditions Charlie mentioned are common, they are all considered difficult diseases in modern medicine. Not only can they not be cured with medication, but even seeking treatment overseas offers no solution. Diabetes in particular is sometimes called the living death, and there's no known cure. But here, with Charlie's help, a single magic pill could cure it. This was simply a medical miracle. Everyone present thought to themselves, Mr. Wade is truly a medical genius, a heavenly dragon among men. Skylar's beautiful eyes shone, and her face flushed as if on fire. She couldn't help but think that a man like Mr. Wade was destined to ascend to the celestial realm. She had to seize this opportunity. She couldn't let it pass. Fiona couldn't help but look at Charlie with admiration. His abilities were beyond anything she could have ever imagined. If she could learn even a fraction of Mr. Wade's methods, it would be enough to change the entire medical world. At that moment, Charlie saw how intently everyone was watching, smiled faintly, and said, "All right, let me hand out the medicine." They had been waiting for this moment, and their faces were filled with excitement. Charlie stood up, took out a pill with one hand, and first handed it to the oldest, Tristan. He said calmly, "Mr. Finch, this one is for you." Tristan trembled. He dropped to his knees, holding his hands up respectfully, and said humbly, "Mr. Wade has given me the medicine. Mr. Wade is too kind. I'm willing to work hard for the rest of my life to repay you." Charlie smiled slightly. "Mr. Finch, I believe our paths were meant to cross. There's no need for all that." With that, he placed the pill in Tristan's hands. Tears welled up in Tristan's eyes. Thinking of how he'd been tortured by his old injury for half his life, he instinctively wanted to take the pill right away and finally be free from the pain. Charlie stopped him and said calmly, "Mr. Finch, this medicine is very powerful. You only need to take half a capsule to cure your old injury. Save the other half. It will be of great use in the future." Tristan's heart pounded. He could be healed with just half? This was truly amazing. Thinking of this, he took out his mortar and pestle, and using the stone tool, he carefully cracked the pill in two. Then, he opened his mouth and swallowed. Everyone watched him intently, hoping to see a miracle happen. A few seconds after Tristan took the pill, his face instantly flushed, his skin turned bright red, and he began to sweat heavily. Tristan felt a powerful vitality flow spreading through his body. It was as if his body were dry, cracked earth, and this warm current was like gentle, clean water, filling all the cracks and nourishing the entire land. He felt his stubborn old injury begin to repair itself rapidly, and his eyes widened in disbelief. "Mr. Wade, this is really amazing! The old injury that has plagued me for decades is completely healed within a few minutes." Tears streamed down Tristan's cheeks. Over the years, he had been tortured by the old illness, almost to the point of collapse. Not only was he unable to treat it himself, but he was also in constant danger of losing his life, and his existence was extremely painful. But now, half of Charlie's pill had cured him completely. It was so amazing there were no words to describe it. With a thud, Tristan knelt again and said through his tears, "Mr. Wade, you've given me my life back. If you don't mind, I am willing to treat you with the respect one gives a father and a teacher." Suffering from so much pain, the sudden recovery made him overwhelmed with excitement. Everyone saw Tristan recovering right there on the spot, and they admired the magic medicine made by Mr. Wade even more. This pill alone was worth more than 10,000 pieces of gold. After they got it, they wouldn't sell it for any amount of money. Charlie looked at Tristan, helped him up with one hand, and said, "Mr. Finch, I appreciate the sentiment, but you are an elder after all. Please don't bow to me in the future." Tristan hurriedly said, "But why?" "Mr. Wade, you are my benefactor." Seeing how stubborn Tristan was, Charlie didn't press the issue. He turned to Warnia, took out a pill, and said, "Miss Smith, this medicine is for Mr. Smith. Warnia immediately knelt in front of Charlie, just as Tristan had, and raised her hands above her head. "Thank you for giving us this medicine. The Smith family will never forget your incredible kindness." Charlie nodded and smiled. He took out 2 pills, smoothly hiding one in his sleeve while placing the other into Warnia's hands. Warnia received the medicine, her heart racing with excitement. She was about to close her hand and put the pill away safely when she felt another round object in the center of her palm. Her heart skipped a beat. She looked up at Charlie and saw him smiling at her before giving her a slight wink. In that instant, she understood exactly what he meant. Charlie was giving her an extra one and telling her to keep it quiet. Warnia was incredibly excited and touched. She had never dreamed that Charlie would give her 2 pills. What's more, the second one was given to her in secret. Did this mean the second pill wasn't for her grandfather, but for her? For Charlie, giving Warnia an extra pill was nothing. But for Warnia, it meant the world. Her heart was already touched by Charlie, and she felt like a young girl being protected and cared for by him. Lost in her thoughts, she watched as Charlie walked over to Salmon White and took out a pill. "Mr. White, this one is for you." Salmon trembled and immediately knelt on the ground, just like the others, waiting respectfully. Charlie placed the medicine in his hand, and Salmon blurted out, "Thank you, Mr. Wade, for this medicine. From now on, I, Salmon White, will follow your every command." Seeing Salmon kneeling so devoutly, Charlie said calmly, "Mr. White, your son and your nephew both angered me in the past. For you weren't a decent man, they probably wouldn't be in this world anymore." Salmon's heart sank. He quickly bowed his head and said, "Thank you, Mr. Wade, for your mercy." Charlie grunted and said, "Tell the young people in your family they need to learn to keep their heads down and behave." Salmon nodded quickly. "Mr. Wade, don't you worry. I will be sure to warn them." "Good," Charlie said lightly. "Take the medicine. It might just save your life one day." Once Salmon had the magic medicine, his face flushed with excitement. "Mr. Wade, if you ever need my family for anything, just say the word." After that, it was Christian's turn. Charlie had promised Skylar 2 pills, so he gave one to Christian and another to Skylar. The father and daughter knelt on the ground together, their expressions full of reverence. Christian immediately made his position clear, declaring, "From now on, the Knox family will consider Mr. Wade our crown jewel." Charlie smiled slightly and nodded, satisfied. At that moment, all the medicine had been handed out. But Charlie thought for a moment, then called out loudly, "Orville, come in." Orville, who had been guarding the door, hurried in. "Mr. Wade, what are your orders?" As he spoke, Orville looked at Charlie respectfully and bowed his head. Charlie nodded slightly and smiled. "I know we've known each other for a while now. You work hard and you're diligent. I prepared a pill for you today while I was making the medicine." When Orville heard this, he was completely stunned. A wave of heat rushed through him, and his head felt like it was going to explode. He had been waiting just outside the room, so of course he had heard what Charlie said inside and what happened after Tristan took the medicine. However, he knew in his heart that a guy like him, who wasn't exactly a man of high standing, could never be worthy of the medicine Mr. Wade was giving away. But now, at this very moment, hearing that Charlie was going to give this magical medicine to him, he dropped to his knees without a second thought. "Mr. Wade, I'm a simple man. I don't know how to say fancy things. From now on, my life is yours. Even if you told me to walk through the inferno, if I so much as frown, you can strike me down with lightning." Orville was so moved he could hardly contain himself. Kneeling on the ground, he respectfully took the pill from Charlie, his excitement so great it was as if he were handling a priceless treasure. Charlie waved his hand. "All right, just keep doing good work for me, and I won't forget it." Orville said firmly, "I will never let you down." When everyone saw Charlie give the magic medicine to Orville, The shock in their hearts was beyond words. Although Orville was a big deal in Oris Hill, to these powerful families, he was nobody. But now, this so-called nobody was following Mr. Wade, and Mr. Wade didn't hesitate to give him the magic medicine. This was how he treated his own people. It was truly a blessing. He was still kneeling at the door of the room, and he shuffled forward on his knees toward Charlie, his heart overflowing with emotion, tears streaming down his face. "I never expected you to even notice a small timer like me. I am truly grateful." Charlie smiled slightly. "Orville, in my book, a person's character matters, not their status. You remember my friend Darren, right? In terms of status, he's got nothing on you. In terms of power, he's not even as strong as one of your men. When he was set up by a scheming woman and ended up in the hospital, he was completely helpless. But why did I still help him, save him, and protect him? Because he's my friend. And I don't care how insignificant he might seem to others. I don't abandon my friends." Orville's heart trembled, and he was moved to tears again. He bowed his head, his voice choked with emotion. "Master Wade, I will be there for you, no matter what." Charlie handed the medicine to him. "If you're going to follow me, you need to understand something. With the power I have, I don't need you to give up your life for me. As long as you are loyal and do your job well, I will protect you for the rest of your life." And what Charlie said was the absolute truth. In terms of wealth, he had tens of billions in cash and companies worth hundreds of billions, an inexhaustible fortune. In terms of power, he possessed mystic knowledge, making his abilities extraordinary. So as long as Orville followed him faithfully, Charlie would certainly take care of him. Charlie's words solidified the admiration and respect everyone in the room had for him. Deep in their hearts, they all made the decision to follow Charlie, no matter what. At that moment, Solomon took out a sleek, smart bracelet key. "Mr. Wade," he said, "this is the smart bracelet key for a custom Koenigsegg Agera sports car. I had it specially ordered from the Oris Hill International Auto Show. The show officially opens tomorrow, and you can pick up the car then." Before Charlie could say anything, Christian pulled out a smart bracelet key of his own. "What a coincidence, Mr. Wade. I also ordered a sports car for you at the auto show. I got you an Ardent Motors, the limited edition 177. Both gifts cost about $40 million. It was a surprise that they both had the same idea." Solomon shot Christian an annoyed look and blurted out, "Knox, what are you doing? Giving Mr. Wade a sports car just like me. Are you deliberately copying me?" Christian replied confidently, "Why would I copy you? I just believe Mr. Wade deserves to drive the very best sports car, so I specifically ordered that Ardent Motors." Tristan Finch, who was standing nearby, saw them offering one gift after another. He quickly pulled a cedar gift box from his pocket. He opened it to reveal a shiny, colorful, Tiffany-stained glass goblet inside. He said to Charlie, "Mr. Wade, this Tiffany-stained glass goblet is from the ancient era. It's one of the most treasured antiques in my collection. I want you to have it today. I hope you like it." Seeing the three of them give such generous gifts, Warnia, who had received 2 magical medicines, knew she couldn't be outdone. She quickly turned, wrote out a check, and then presented it to Charlie with both hands. "Mr. Wade, this is a check for $100 million. It's just a small token of my appreciation. Please, accept it." Charlie was surprised that they had all decided to give him gifts, and such expensive ones at that. Both sports cars were in the $40 million range. The Tiffany-stained glass goblets from the ancient era were worth at least $50 to $60 million, and Warnia had given him a check for a straight $100 million. Honestly, none of this really meant much to Charlie. First, the sports cars were too flashy, and he wasn't a fan. Second, antiques were too much of a hassle, and he didn't care for them. As for money, that was the last thing he needed. However, seeing the 4 of them looking at him so eagerly, waiting for him to accept their gifts of loyalty, Charlie thought for a moment. He decided not to refuse. "Okay," he said, "I'll accept these things. You've made your intentions clear. Since they wanted to pledge their loyalty and become his allies, accepting their offerings was the right move. When everyone saw that he had accepted their gifts, they all let out a sigh of relief and smiled. Charlie casually stuffed the $100 million cash check, the 2 smart bracelet keys, and the Tiffany stained glass goblet into his pocket. Then he said simply, "All right, everyone, let's eat." Everyone quickly agreed. "Yes, let's eat." At that moment, Orville stood up from the floor. "Mr. Wade, I'll go stand by the door and wait." Charlie nodded, not asking him to stay. For the powerful people sitting at this table, Orville really wasn't in the same league. A street-level gangster, no matter how successful, was still just a gangster, and these people were the richest of the rich. After dinner, Charlie turned down Warnia's offer to drive him home and decided to walk instead. After thanking him again, Warnia got into her limited-edition car and drove back to her villa. She held the steering wheel with one hand and the 2 magical medicines with the other. She couldn't help but wonder, should she give both to her grandpa? Or should she keep one for herself? If she gave both to her grandpa, then she'd miss her chance to have a magic medicine, and that made her a little sad. But if she kept one for herself, and her grandpa found out about it later, she wondered if it would cause trouble. After a moment of thought, her desire to have the magical medicine for herself won out. She carefully tucked one of the pills into the glove box of her car, deciding to hold on to it for now. If she ever needed it, she would use it. And if she didn't need it, but her grandpa did, she could always give it to him then. That way, she could offer her grandpa the magic medicine on 2 separate occasions to extend his life. She believed that if she did that, he would definitely see her in a new light. When she got home, her grandpa was waiting anxiously, half reclined on the sofa. The last time Charlie had visited, he'd saved his life, but he hadn't been able to completely restore his health. He was still old and frail. After a few days of rest, his condition had improved a little, but he still needed help to stand and had to use crutches to walk. For a man who had always been so proud and accomplished, this physical weakness was the greatest frustration of his old age. And now he was pinning all his hopes on the magic medicine created by Mr. Charlie Wade.